Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To try to get through a series of questions quickly with you, the first is perhaps with Mr. Begdoyan. Just quickly, do you think that telemedicine is contributing to the potential abuse?
That's an excellent question, Mr. McKinley, but that's not in the scope of the work I've done, and I have no expertise in that.
Okay.
So I couldn't
Could you
respond to
find
that.
out from someone in the panel or elsewhere is what the impact that could be, because people practicing without license in a state that could be abused? I'd like to follow up with that. Now with Dr. Agarwal, thank you for once again appearing before us. There are a series of questions I had quickly with you. We talk about this pay and chase, but before I get to the pay and chase issue, what about using the technology that we have today, the internet, Skype, whatever, to be able to try to get some of that utilization, particularly for people that have groups that have abused the system or maybe been mischarging? Could we, do you have an idea what the cost would be to implement something that in real time you would be able to make a phone call or Skype information or something to be able to get that for pre-approval before they offer these services? Have you looked into that, what that cost could be?
Yeah, I think very important question. We have tried diligently over the last few years to move away from a pay and chase model to one that emphasizes prevention. Along the lines of your question, we've implemented the fraud prevention system, which is a predictive analytics technology. Congress authorized the implementation of this system, as well as funded it for its initial 4 years of implementation.
What about just someone picking up the phone or talking to someone, a real person, not a press 1 or press 2, but actually talking to somebody? I've got this patient, and these are the conditions. Is this going to be okay?
Well, you know, what you are highlighting essentially is a prior authorization process, which is used extensively.
I don't want to do it for everyone. I want to go because that penalizes everyone. I'm looking at people that have perhaps been known to have made mistakes before, so that we clarify. So it's very single. So you've not looked in it, because I really want to get to my last two questions quickly. We have one of the things when we meet back in the district, we keep hearing there's a lack of uniformity in the application for reimbursement, and different rules are being applied to different regions of the country. I know in West Virginia and Ohio, there's a separation of just over 1,000 feet. The river separates between West Virginia and Ohio, but yet the contractors are two different contractors, and using almost exactly the same circumstance. The one in Ohio is being reimbursed differently than the one in West Virginia. And similarly to that, the denial rate, the initial denial rate is 90%. 90%, 89% for West Virginia, but in Ohio it's only 10%. So as a result of that denial rate, a lot of the West Virginia providers are having to go out and get lines of credit and increase their cost of doing business because they're not being reimbursed in a timely fashion. What are we going to do? Why is there such a disparity between two regions separated by merely 1,000 feet?
You know, without the specifics of a case, it's hard to comment, but there are legitimate...
We've sent CMS those specifics, so we've not heard back, so we can send them again.
I would love to certainly see them and be happy to follow up with you. There are lots of things that can drive differences across geographies. First, you know, the way that providers practice, the way that they submit bills to the agency can be different.
90% versus 10%?
There are also other coverage decisions that are different, like local coverage determinations that can vary from one region of Medicare to another. So a multitude of factors can figure into this. Again, I'm happy to work on a particular case if that would be relevant for you.
Well, I think it's more than just a particular case. It is something uniformly, when I go back to the district, this is something we hear from providers time and time again, because we enjoy that. We're right there on the border. We can contrast what they're doing in Ohio for reimbursement as compared to what they are in West Virginia. So I guess we can have further conversation, but I appreciate your answers on this, and I hope we can work together. The last is this thing, you've instituted a 3-year demonstration program to possibly do prior authorization. Why is it across the board? Why isn't it more just for those that have a history of perhaps violating the system? Because that way, everyone's being punished this way. This doesn't make sense.
Right. We have implemented, through a demo approach, prior authorization in ambulance services, again, in certain geographies, in certain DME supplies in certain geographies. We have found that prior auth can be a really useful tool because it narrows that gap between the medical record and the claim, which helps to reduce the improper payment rate and reduce expenditure kind of accordingly. I'm very open to more focused prior authorization, really focused on bad actors and folks that have high denial rates. However, I think before we get there, we have to get more experience.
What I wanted to get is use the technology that we have today.
Sure.
If we have all this internet access, let's use it and be able to, so I yield back my time.
Appreciate it.
Gentleman yields back and recognizes the gentlelady from Florida, Ms. Castor, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, and thank you to the panel. I'm glad we have the opportunity